thought. Okay. Yeah, recording in progress. So welcome everyone to ICF Orange County. We're here on November 18th for an hour and a half tonight. Thanks everyone for zooming in and for being here with our live audience. So this is the first time this chapter is trying this format, the hybrid format. We've got people who are sitting in Nanor's living room. Calling in.
Welcome.
Wonderful setting.
And Nahid's going to introduce everyone in a second. But just so you know that Lori is going to turn on a spotlight in just a second. So we're testing the spotlight too to make your viewing easier. And tonight's meeting offers 1.5 CCUs. 1 core competency and 0.5 resource developments. And it takes our team about 3 weeks to get you the CCUs because everything is done manually. They're going to send out a survey. And once you finish the survey, they're going to send you your certificate for the CCEUs. So we ask your patience in advance. Again, we're a small team and we do it manually. So Lori, do you want to talk about Q&A?
Yes, so for tonight, for simplicity, we're just going to do the Q&A in the chat. So if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat. And I think we have a small enough group that I can just ask your question to the group.
Great. So thanks everybody for being here tonight and for being part of this really cool event, the hybrid event. And I'm going to pass it over to Nahid. Nahid's going to introduce us to the audience and to our guest speaker, whom some of us know. Over to you, Nahid.
Thank you. Okay, well, let me introduce our group here. I'm going to introduce Doug in a minute, but Doug is our speaker tonight. And our first person on the couch is his wife, Leslie, who makes wonderful cookies. And she's also a wonderful person to get to know. And then we have Michael here, Michael Coffey. He is on our programs team and he will be our programs director next year as co-director as well as our president-elect next year, I think. Are we, I don't know if we're announcing roles yet.
Yeah, no.
We're not announcing roles yet? Okay, we'll see.
Okay.
This is why you have to tell me. And we have Sharon Carroll here, who is also part of our programming team, and then me and Doug and Nanor, who you probably all know, but is also my co-programming chair for this year. So let me introduce you. Well, I guess let me just do a check first. Since we've just spotlighted us and we cannot see any of you now, but I just maybe you can shout out, unmute yourself and shout out yes if you can all see us fine and hear us fine, and then we'll get started.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
And now you can put yourselves on mute. But we will definitely welcome you into the conversation in a little bit. So let me introduce Doug. Gosh, I've known Doug for so long, from maybe when I just even started with coaching and started interacting with ICF. But, before Doug was a coach, he was a CEO of 1 or 2 organizations.
I had 2 companies that I set up.
Yeah.
The longest was a building company for about 18 years.
Yeah. So he was a CEO himself, and then he moved into coaching, and he ran CEO groups for a really long period of time. And, they're called the Renaissance Forum, but they're kind of like Vistage groups. And he did that as a main part of his job for a really long time. He also did a radio show for coaches, and he did it on business topics for a long time. And then he did it on coaching topics.
Yes.
And I was a guest on his show a couple of times. It's just an amazing show. You can go to his website and I think see all the prior.
They're still up there.
They're still up there. Yeah.
Don't get rid of them, please.
Yeah, they're really, really good. Excellent. It's an excellent thing to listen to.
Yeah.
Doug was one of the first coaches to ever get his MCC, his Master Credential Coach Master Coaching Credential, and he has maintained it and maintained active participation with the chapter for how many decades? Do you want me to age you that way? 3 decades?
Yeah, you can age me any way you want.
A long
I
time.
think I got my MCC in 99.
Okay, all
So-
right. So that's been quite a while, a ways, and he's been active in the chapter all of that time, or most of that time,
Yeah.
right? And Doug was president of our local ICF Orange County chapter in 2008, and he's also held several other board positions. So to us, Doug is like family, but also one of the reasons that I thought of Doug for this particular event is we were thinking about Thanksgiving coming up, and also how we really like to hear from coaches that have really built a successful career, so that we can hear how they built their successful career, and what are some of their lessons learned and all of that. But when I thought about November, I thought about Thanksgiving, and I thought about fireside chat, and the first person I thought about was Doug, because he's part of our ICF family, so we can all be comfortable with him. And so in the spirit of fireside chat, those of you who have wine, please feel free to toast. Everyone, I'll toast with my water. We're just gonna have a nice family chat. I'm gonna be asking Doug some questions. We'll talk for a little bit, but then we're gonna invite anybody to ask questions and just keep the conversation going. And we will milk Doug for all he's worth. We will learn all his wisdom, and we'll hear all his stories. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. And can I just suggest that if Lori gets any questions, that you don't have to hold them to the end. If you think it's better to interrupt, I can handle that. So
That would be great. We I think we would like more of an interactive thing. We can't see any of you guys, so you'll just have to yell at us and we can hear you. So that's good. And so you can either read what questions people have, or you can take them off mute and just have them ask the questions. Doug, I'm just wondering if you might want to start by just talking about what you figured out as the best approach for getting clients and maintaining relationships with clients.
no, I really didn't prepare to answer that question.
Oh, darn it. Okay. Well,
I think one of the key things, it always makes me uncomfortable when somebody says I'm a successful coach, because what does that really mean? And success is something different for all of us. And to me, a successful coaching practice is one where I have really deep relationships with my clients, where I think of them as my friends. And I know some coaches feel like, no, business is separate from friends, but I'll tell you that I had a very hard time with the pandemic, because the way I've built my practice, for me to coach someone, I have to see them physically at least once a month, and the rest of the time is on the phone or Zoom. And going through the pandemic and not seeing them freaked me out. I mean, I can't live that way. For those of you who coach people 100% of the time on the phone and never meet with them, my hat's off to you. I don't know how you do it. I just need that relationship. I need to leave my home office. I need to go to their office. I need to feel the excitement and the energy in their office. My idea of success is when I walk in their office, nobody asks me who I am. Nobody asks me who I'm there to see. I'm part of the team. I'm part of the company. So if that's the relationship, then it's successful, and that's what I strive for. Now, that places certain limitations on you, and we can talk about that, and there's ways to handle it. But my practice, I started in 99, and I started by coaching the people that were in my CEO groups. So I had about 4 CEO groups with 10 people each. They'd meet once a month for a half day. Company presidents, we'd talk about their issues. They'd make notes. We'd have guest speakers. They'd get inspirational moments. They'd get great solutions to their problems. They'd write it down. They'd go away. They'd come back the next month. They'd look at their notes and go, oh, I don't remember writing that.
Does that sound familiar to anybody?
And it was like, you know what? Why would they stay in this group if they literally don't apply the things we're talking about? They never will. And now I have to tell you something bad about myself. I hate sales. I don't like to go out and try to sell. So my practice was designed to keep people for a really long time so I can minimize going out and having to sell. Now, for a long time, I couldn't sell at all until somebody finally helped me understand somebody. So my coach, Cynthia Lloyd Darce, who's been my coach since '99, since I went through training at CTI.
Wow.
And she still walks me off the ledge once a month. But she said, stop thinking of it as selling and thinking of it as helping people.
Right.
And all of a sudden it changed and I could have a normal conversation with you. Is there something I can help you with? But if I'm trying to sell you, I can't even sell you the wine. Well, it's my wine. You know? Well, you poured it, but so, you know, so that's what I'm looking for, is really to have long-term relationships. But these CEOs just weren't implementing what they learned. And so I had heard of coaching. I went to some meetings, got interested in it, went through CTI's training, got my certification. And coaching for me was going to be nothing more than a retention tool. It was going to be something that I would use with the people in my group to keep them from quitting the groups, because I was making a lot more money off of them being in the groups than I was off of coaching them once a month. But along the way, I fell in love with coaching. And along the way, they introduced me to other people. I had other people coaching. And so it grew and grew to where I was having more than 60 coaching engagements a month.
Wow.
And most of them were in person. I was driving all over Orange County like a bus driver, you know, and it was like, this is not the kind of relationships I wanted. It would just get interesting talking to you, and it would be time to run to the next meeting, you know. So I decided to change it. So I can keep going, but I've lost track of whatever the question was.
Well, you know,
it was a great story though. I
it
really
was a
enjoyed
great
it.
story. It was a wonderful story. And, you know, I think one thing that I didn't quite realize, so I really like that you shared this, is that the order was that you started building the business of Renaissance Forums to support CEOs because you had been a CEO. You started noticing, and how many of us have noticed the same thing, that your clients get really excited by the end of, you know, the meeting, and then they don't follow up on any of their action items.
Yeah.
So
I'm the same way.
yeah, I am too, really,
If
right?
my coach doesn't remind me, it's, you know, yeah.
So then you started realizing that there were opportunities there. You learned about coaching, you got into coaching, but then it sounds like there was a tipping point where you started coaching, but then you were driving all over the place. So that wasn't working. So then did you shift your business model a little bit?
I sold the Renaissance business.
Okay.
It was a franchise. I sold it and decided I'm going to take the leap and just coach.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Yeah.
Now, at the same time, I had been asked to be on a board of directors of a fairly substantial privately held company. So I had that income and the coaching. And I was really quite surprised at how quickly the coaching built up. Now, I have to admit, I don't think I've ever gotten a client that didn't come to me through a referral.
Yeah.
I'd like to say I called on you and you were so impressed with me, you signed up right away. You know? Never happened to me, you know. It's all been through referrals of people that I work with.
It's the best.
So, you know, a couple of things had to happen to make that work. One is I didn't want one night stands. I didn't want coaching engagements where you hired me to solve a specific problem. And when we had solved that problem, I went away and you said, end of coaching.
And, you know, I think that's really important point, because a lot of coaches will tell me I'm not doing my job if I'm still coaching the person, you know, after 2 years, because there is a mindset, which is we coach for 6 months or 9 months or 12 months, and then we stop coaching.
Yeah.
And that's very different from this other mindset of lifelong client, which, by the way, I like. So it sounds like you sort of were like, I don't want to have the short-term mindset.
I don't want to have the short term.
I want to have clients for life.
Well, it's silly. I coach CEOs. In fact, another epiphany through Cynthia Lloyd Darce. We were talking a couple months ago, And at that time, I was thinking I might lose a couple key clients. I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to do some marketing, and we're talking about what I'd have to do, and I'm dreading it. And she says, what you really do is you're an enterprise coach. Have you heard the term? I'd never heard the term.
Nope.
I said, what's an enterprise coach? She says, you coach the business. You coach the system, not
Oh.
just the people. And I said, you're right. That's what I do. I coach the system.
You've told me that before. I don't know if you remember, but I think we've had conversations and you've always talked about how important it was for you to look at the whole business
Yeah.
as a system. Because you would go in and you would sit in on board meetings because you would need to see the whole picture.
Yeah, I don't believe what my client tells me. They don't lie to me, but they only see it through their perspective.
Mhm.
Okay. So I need to get other information to really serve them well. So I decided that, I need to make sure that I get other data. I need to make sure that I'm there for the long term. So I write a coaching engagement letter that defines whatever they brought me in for, but I'm not going to limit myself to that.
Mm.
Okay. And I very quickly learned that you have to stay away from hourly fees, because the hourly fee limits you. They don't want to use you for everything because the clock's ticking. Okay. So I make sure that on a monthly retainer that there's enough money in there that I'm comfortable spending as much time with you as you want. Now, once I had a client that abused it, but once in, 20 some years or more, that's no big deal. So I make sure that everybody's on a monthly retainer. I make sure that we do have an engagement letter, but I'm not restricting myself to looking at just what we agreed. Definitely will coach on what we talked about. But meanwhile, I'm looking at everything else that's going on in your life.
Mhm.
It's silly to think that any CEO only has one problem. And when it's solved, he's problem free. It just doesn't happen. Okay. So to do that, besides the phone coaching that I would do with them probably weekly, I also insisted that once a month, I want to be in your office. Once a month, I want to sit in on a meeting, a key management meeting that you are having with your staff. And I'd also like to coach some of your people so that I hear what they think of you and I see how you perform live in the circus arena. Okay. Because what you think you're saying isn't always what you're saying.
So I'd like to dive in a little bit there because I'm wondering, when you say that, I feel like, wow, I'd love to do that too. But I get a little intimidated. Like somebody hires me for a coaching engagement. And I mean, I'd love to say, I'd like to go in there and coach all your people and spend a day. How do you actually approach that? I mean, do you wait until you've built up a relationship?
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't know me at the start. Okay. It's a big leap for them to just hire me.
Mm-hmm.
But after I'm there for a while, I can go, because I've sat in on these meetings. I can go, are you aware when you were talking, did you see the way Leslie reacted to that? What do you mean, Doug? Well, and then we have, well, gee whiz, what do you think I should do? Well, would it be okay if I spend a couple sessions with her? And then we go from there. Okay. So I don't have to get everybody signed up for a regular routine thing, but I'm there and available. So I'm looking for opportunities, and the engagement letter guarantees me that company access so that I hear what's going on.
So your engagement letter is a monthly retainer, and the monthly retainer is big enough so that
It's never big enough.
but it covers a day there and in the beginning, like a day there on site, and then also so maybe like a half day there on site, and then like maybe 4 sessions.
Yes.
A
Weekly
thing.
sessions.
Yeah. Do you mind giving us, okay, so you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but do you mind, for those in our studio audience who are taking notes and trying to get a sense, do you mind giving me an idea, a range of what a retainer like that might look like, or what you've noticed that companies seem to be open to?
I coach a couple of very small companies, so their retainers aren't really relevant. 7 people. Okay. But the typical company that I'm coaching that's doing someplace between $5 and $50 million a year, and I'm probably have a retainer of $3,500 a month.
Okay.
Okay. So now, besides that, if there are special things that they want me to do or that we've discovered that I can help them with, then the engagement letter spells out an hourly rate for those things.
Mhm.
But I have to get approval first.
Mhm.
I don't want to do any work for you and then send you a bill. And you go, well, I thought you were just helping me. You know, that's not right. Okay.
Mhm.
The other thing is early on, I look for ways to put in extra time. And then on my invoice, I bill them for that extra time. And then I give them a credit back for all of it.
Oh, I
I
love that.
want them to know
Oh.
what my time is worth. I don't like anybody giving free sessions. My time is valuable,
Mm.
but I will work with you. But I want you to know you just got $2,000 worth, or you got $500 worth
Mhm.
of service. And so I'm okay with it. I'm not charging you.
Mhm.
So if somebody asks me,
I like
hey, that was a great topic, a conversation we had the other day. Can you come in to a staff luncheon and tell the whole staff about
Mhm.
delegation? They'd love to hear it, your favorite topic. And I'll go, fine, you know, that might be $500 to just come in and have a pizza luncheon with the people and talk about delegation. And it's a one-time deal.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Now, the first time I might not charge them anything. I might bill them 500, credit them 500.
Mhm.
Mhm.
They start using me on a regular basis, we stop the crediting.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
You know,
So the
So-
way they get the bills, they're just getting your retainer, they're getting kind of itemized of some other things that
Yep.
you did, they're getting credits, but then at some time they stop getting the credits and they're usually good with that, right?
yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. So that's actually the answer to this question. In your approach, do you do a lot of things with your clients that you don't specifically charge for? Because I think a lot of coaches get really flustered with the idea of how much should I give away without devaluing myself. But then at the same time, I want to show partnership. I want to show generosity in my relationship. And it sounds like that's your answer to it, but maybe you can elaborate a little
Well,
bit.
early on, let's say it's the first time with a client engagement. I don't want to give them a free session. But let's say we've had a conversation. You're thinking of using me as a coach. And I go, you know, I think I can help you, but I can't really tell from this 1 hour meeting.
Hmm.
So why don't we do this? Why don't I come into your office? Let me spend 4 hours there interviewing your people, a little more time with you. I'll give you a summary report of what I've discovered, and we can then talk about whether I'm a good fit or not.
Mhm.
Now, depending on the client, I might say, and if you think when we're done, you want to go forward, then, you know, my fee for that would typically be, or if there's a lot of potential there, I might just not be charging for that.
Mhm.
Okay. But I'll invoice for half day and credit for it. So I
Got it.
want them to be aware of it.
Naheed?
Yes.
This is Lori. I have a question from the audience. Is the retainer for the whole company, Doug, or is it how do you define for your retainer?
My engagement is usually for the company. It's usually instigated by the CEO, and it is a company retainer.
Hmm. Okay.
I'm not sure how else it would be, but understand that if in that agreement we've agreed that I'm going to coach the CEO and two of his direct reports once a week in phone coaching and once a month in the office for a half day, and then he decides to add 3 more direct reports, we're going to modify that agreement. You know,
Right.
so it sort of spells out how many people are going to be involved.
And someone in the company determines that.
The CEO.
Do you ever have a CEO call you and say, do you ever start an agreement with a CEO calling you and saying, I want you to coach Sharon?
Yeah.
But not me.
Yeah. And I'm good with that.
Mhm.
I don't end up with a lot of that.
Mhm.
Okay. I mean, for one thing, I don't really like to be brought into just problem situations. I mean,
Mhm.
Sharon's hopeless. We're getting ready to fire her. You know, we're willing to spend 55 cents for one last coaching engagement, see if we can save her. Sorry, Sharon. You know, I don't really like those, I'm going like, what do you expect me to do? Are you just looking to check the box that you went
Right.
through everything you could do?
Right.
I'm not interested, okay? But typically when I talk to Sharon and the typical deal is like, okay, I'll coach Sharon. Let's try it for 3 months and see how it goes. I'd like you to make a commitment. But my agreements all say you can cancel at any time and you won't be billed for time I haven't spent. But typically after I talk to Sharon, I can easily come back to the CEO and go, guess what, Lenore? Sharon's not all the problem. You got a piece of this problem too.
What?
Maybe we should be talking.
Lenore. Shame on you. I've triggered Sharon.
She
So
wouldn't listen. She didn't listen to me.
again, you can't be bound by your engagement letter. I mean, in coaching, training, we're all taught about the engagement letter and get real specific. But when you're there with them, you're looking for opportunities. You're looking for opportunities to help. Now, let me say one thing that occurred to me while we were talking here. Okay, I got a lot of business background. And so a lot of this is very easy for me. And I hear coaches go, well, I didn't run my own company. I haven't been a CEO. You may not know the answers to problems, but the same skills that you have in coaching would let you sit in on any meeting of any department over any issue and be able to help them reach a better decision than they would without somebody to help facilitate. If nothing else, your coaching skills make you a phenomenal facilitator. Okay. So a lot of a number of the companies I work with ask me to facilitate meetings for them. A lot of CEOs just don't like running a meeting. They go, I don't like telling Michael to shut up. He talks way too much, But Doug has no problem telling Michael to shut up. He's really rude. So I'll facilitate the
Michael's
meeting.
like, how'd
for him.
you know?
What I was thinking. Yes.
So you have to be very intuitive in coaching and recognize the problem people are in.
So I thought I heard someone trying to kind of interrupt us here with a question. So I just want to check in with you guys.
Yeah, I had one other question. We are curious to hear if there is any specific areas Doug has been coaching leaders on as a result of the pandemic. What are some new focus areas, competencies, leadership skills, self and others that have come up in the last 24 months?
That's a good question. The common problem that CEOs have seem to be having as a result of the pandemic is they are frozen in time and reluctant to make any decisions because they're using the pandemic to say, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I can't decide. How can I do a business plan? How can I do a strategic plan? How can I plan on what the company's going to be doing? How do I know if we should buy more space or less space? I just don't know where the world's going. Well, okay, but you didn't know before the pandemic either,
Never know.
But since day one, CEOs have been guessing. They don't like to use the word guess. They've been making strategic plans based on a lot of guesses.
Based on the
assumptions.
chaotic market environment that might change at any moment, being prepared to pivot.
So it's no different, but that is something that I have probably had a lot of time in discussions about, that you've just got to make a decision. You can't just freeze because you don't know. You've always had uncertainty, so we don't know. We don't know that there's 87 cargo ships offshore there and they've got all of my Christmas merchandise. How am I going to forecast my December sales? Well, you're going to do the best you can. And if you really are nervous, let's go with what's most likely, what's least likely, and what you think will really happen. And go from there. So that seems to be the number one topic. The number two topic is really how to make their people comfortable, because they're dealing with people who are as nervous as the CEOs are, maybe more nervous. They're dealing with people that aren't coming to the office anymore. So the CEO's not getting that input from them. they can't see the tear on their face. They can't talk them off the ledge because they're home on Zoom. So the whole issue of how do you communicate with your staff that isn't here? It's put a lot of pressure on CEOs that their natural skill isn't writing. A number of them have gone to more frequent Zoom meetings, all company Zooms or department Zooms. And it's a casual chat, fireside chat's a good way to talk about it. One CEO I work with is he writes the greatest letters, and he puts out almost monthly during the pandemic, a great letter that told what's going wrong in the world, how many people have got COVID, what's it doing to the business, and hey, this is what we're going to do, and we can get through this, and thank you for your efforts, and it makes a huge difference. So those are I would say the two topics that the pandemic has influenced more than anything else.
Excellent. Any other questions coming from the gallery?
Not yet.
Okay. So I have a question.
Yeah.
I remember a couple of times, well, I actually remember when you said, I've got way too much going on. I'm going to kind of sell my foreign business so that I can just coach. And I got the impression at that time that you were really looking forward to a very comfortable life with Leslie, where you'd be working.
She doesn't want me home all the time.
Very comfortable hours and all of that. And now I get the impression, though, that when you made that decision, and you've shared this with us as well, that you got a lot busier than you expected. So how do you set boundaries?
You have to set boundaries. And it's interesting. Leslie and I had a conversation. We were having the same conversation I mentioned to you. And I said, I really don't work that many hours. I mean, I'm working 40 hours a month. It's no big deal. And she said, are you kidding me? You're working at least 60 hours a month. Or more. And I said, no, I'm really not. So I started keeping track, and it's really hard when you're working at home because, it's the evening comes, I'm through with work. I've got no more scheduled calls. She's watching something on television I'm not interested in. So I sneak into my office and start working on something, a presentation or whatever. And I'm having a great time too. And she's glad I'm not criticizing her TV. So it works great for both of us. But, so about 4 years ago, I decided that I'm going to work 4 days a week. And I told all my clients that. I said, I am not working on Fridays. And I had one client that refused to accept it because we had a all company senior management meeting the fourth Friday of every month. And it was very convenient for them. They worked half days Fridays, so the senior managers were able to spend time in that meeting. And so I said, okay, I'll make an exception. For one Friday a month, I'll come to your meeting, but I'm going to moan and groan about it every single time, I just got an email today. They want to talk at the next meeting in December. For 2022, we're not going to do Friday. You know why? Not because they care about what I want, because they're going to a 32-hour work week and they don't want to come in on Friday either. Now the shoe's on the other foot.
Boundaries are contagious.
But what I found, and I think this really applies, it probably applies to everybody. It does. But for coaches especially, very few coaches are actively making calls back to back, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. So what do you do with that dead time in between calls? You usually don't use it very well. So what I found is by going to 4 days a week and not wanting to work on Friday, really not wanting to work on Friday, I got everything done that I was getting done before in 5 days. Now, once in a while, I don't plan real well and I'll have to do some work, but I try to really avoid appointments. Now, I do, if a client has an emergency, I don't care what day of the week it is. So the last 3 Fridays, I have one client that I'm on their board of directors, and we hired a new key executive, And they wanted me involved in the interviewing process and then the offer process and then breaking it to the rest of the team. And Friday was the more convenient day for them. So, okay, this in my mind is an emergency. I can do
Yeah.
this. This is, and the client knows I don't work Fridays. And when I showed up, not dressed up as much as usual, which nobody dresses up anyhow anymore, but you know, they gave me a bad time about it, said, we're sorry, Doug. I know this is your day off, but the rest of the world's working, you know. So yeah, you have to set some boundaries. You have to work that out. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is I think as coaches, one of the things that many coaches miss is they only coach and they ignore all their other skills. And if you think about it, I mean, I work with an architectural company, an engineering company, a manufacturing company. I work with a lot of different companies that the CEOs were not trained and came from the crib as managers. They had some other technical skill set that they learned, let's say architecture, and they learn how to do architecture and now they're managing. So they do both because they like both. So I think that I'm suspicious that a lot of us coaches also have other skills besides coaching that we could also offer to our clients. Now, it may be offered in a coaching way. I'm not saying that you should become their architect, okay? But I'm saying that there's other things. For instance, one of the things for me is that I'm on 3 board of directors. One company, I've been on the board 18 years, and they absolutely will not let me coach anybody in their company. They feel very strong that it's a conflict of interest, that as a director on the company with confidential information, how can I coach Michael, who's having serious mental problems, you know, and not tell HR? Okay? You know, so that's one thing. I've got another company that I'm on the board, and the reason I'm on the board is because the owner called me in to coach his successor, to coach the general manager to be the next CEO when they went through the transition of selling the company through an ESOP to the employees. And so I coached this manager. He's a great CEO. It's one of the all-time success stories for management transition. And as a result of that, when we were through and he became president, he said, I'd like you to be on my board. You know, I'm listening to you when we're coaching. I'd like you to be on the board. I'd like the way you analyze problems and think about things and bring things out in the discussion and keep the discussion from going all day long and, you know, things like that. All skills that we have as coaches. So, and as a result of that, they had a Christmas party and I met some of the companies they deal with. And next thing I know, I get a call and another company that supplies them says, we're an ESOP company and you've got experience with ESOP companies. We'd like you to be on our board. We heard you're doing a great job on their board. So now I'm on their board, you know. So, you know, so where does my revenue come from? My revenue comes from board of directors positions. My revenue comes from both. And I don't up either one of those. And I don't think they have a need for different skill sets, you know. Now, occasionally I will have a client that's having a problem with technology or having a problem with finance, and I have skills in those areas. So I may sit down and help them design a management system or a reporting system, or help them figure out what summary information, financial information should be presented to the senior managers once a month. Okay, so that might be something, that might be a skill somebody else doesn't have. But you may have a writing capability that they would love to get that. Or you, come on, what do you have, Lenora? Well, Nora's great at entertaining us. We have a wonderful home. I think she could give parties.
Yes, I can have parties.
Lenore is the glue. I'm telling you, she is the glue that holds it all together. So
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah.
See, so I'm going to summarize this and say, I think once a year, you should sit down and take inventory of what experiences have you built up in the last year, and what skills do you have, and how can those help your existing clients, or how might they attract new clients?
Like that.
Okay, And you know, I didn't do this all the time, and it really hit me. I was having a session with Cynthia, and she said, this session where she said, you're an enterprise coach. And she said, well, if you want some new clients and some new board positions, I've never heard of a coach that's on an ESOP board of directors. I said, oh, neither have I.
I don't even know what ESOP is.
Employee stock owned company. It's where the owner sells out to the employees. So, okay. So, and you know what? You are not the only person in the world that never heard about it. And all those who heard about it, 90% of them don't understand what it means. So I said, that sounds great. So I signed up to go to a national conference last week in Vegas for ESOP companies. And I went to this conference and I thought I can do some networking. And by the way, this is an educational time for me. So my 2 existing clients said, this is good for us, for you to learn more. Let us help pay for it. Okay. So I go to this conference and I find out that one of the things that newly formed ESOP companies have trouble with is they don't know where to find a board of director, an outside director to serve on their board.
Oh, my goodness.
What do you know?
It doesn't always work the way you planned. This turns out to be absolutely the wrong meeting for me to go to, because everybody that was a potential really good fit for me was in another state, and I do not want to travel, and I would not be able to develop the relationships I want, where I can meet you face to face once a month. So I realized, great, this was a great way to prove out that I have a skill set I've ignored, that there is a market for, but I need to market it locally to the local ESOP chapter and Western region. And it just as an example, but it can be a big thing, you know, and we've all got those things. You've all got skills that you don't even think of skills because you've always done it. You know, how many classes have you taught?
A lot.
A lot. You know, how many teaching opportunities are there in a business, especially for somebody who has a coach attitude about the way they look at life and relationships?
Yeah, that is definitely true. And, you know, we talk about how we split our skills all the time. Like Nanor will have me do my writing, but then I'll call her when I need someone to just be caring and listen. That is a great skill. It makes me feel valued. I got a notice that there were some more questions in chat. So who has a question for Doug?
Okay, I'm gonna summarize. So we have a question. How much prep time do you need before you meet with a client? So it's the prep time, and then how do you do it? And then how do you send post-meeting notes? I mean, just that whole process, if you can like enlighten us on that, Doug. Rockstar Doug.
Okay, I'm not sure. I'll take a stab at it. And if I don't answer it, I'll try to be short and you can correct me. But if I'm going to meet a new client, I'm going to use all of social media that I can to find out what I can about them. I want to know about their company. I want to know who's on their board. I want to know about them personally. I want to know about their family. I want to see what their hobbies are. I don't want to go in cold. So I'd like to know as much as I can about them and about their company. But when I get there, I have to realize that none of that is information I can count on. That's all social media hype. So I need to talk to them, but it might give me an idea of what direction to go in. You know, I might see that, gee, I looked at your website and your top management people, nobody's been here more than 6 months. And I went back 6 months and there was all different faces, you know. Is there an issue here? You know, so it might give me a place to look and to spur the conversation, okay? If the other question was about coaching notes, is that right?
Yes. How do you prepare like ahead of time, other than just like researching the person? What else do you prepare? And then what is your post-meeting notes?
Well, for a cold call, I think I just gave as good an answer as I can give. There's not much prep you can do. And mostly it's mental prep. It's sitting out in the parking lot and listening to the Last of the Mohegans music to get myself hyped up to go in, okay? But it isn't data. It's about being in the right frame of mind to listen, to be inquiring, to be open and to not be judgmental, not to think that I know the answers or what their problems are. So the key issue there is to find out where are your problems, and are there areas I can help you in. I do not make the assumption that because you have problems, I can help you. Your problems may not be ones I feel comfortable working with you on. Okay, so that's the key thing. After that, you know, I mean, in a normal coaching session, I always review, I take notes. I try to take, I'm getting better at taking fewer and fewer notes. I think that's better. I used to write a whole lot when I was listening to somebody, and I found out I can't listen and write at the same time. So now I just put scribbles of the highlights, keywords and stuff.
Nice.
And I have little, you know, I use a notebook all the time, have the same notebook, carry it with me everywhere. And I have little, you know, question marks or symbols that say follow up on this or ask about it next time or due date on that. And so before the next coaching session, I flip back to that last page of notes and look and see, what did we do last time? You know, what do I want to follow up with? And that's kind of where our conversation should start.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because I think coaches do this differently. And I'd love to get everybody's perspective on this. So some coaches will write notes and then send a summary of the notes and the accountability items to the client afterwards. And I actually had a coach for a while that would do that. They would send me what I was to be accountable for afterwards. And I've had clients ask me to, we might be talking and they might be in the car or whatever, but they're just, oh, Nahid, what you just said was really important. I want to remember it. Can you send me a quick email? So sometimes I'll do it real casually like that. But there's some people that actually write very formalized notes. Sometimes after I do a day session, it includes the summary of what we decided if it was a strategy session or something. So, I mean, it sounds like you write your notes mainly for yourself. So
They
you
are
know
absolutely for me.
So you don't really write notes to
I
clients.
don't write
yet.
notes for the client. Now, if the client says, can you remind me about this? Or he says, I've got to do this. I'll do what you just said. I'll send him a quick email afterwards. Or if I'm talking to Lenore and she says, you know, I've got this issue with delegation, I'll go, let me send you the link to a radio show that would really help you with that I think you should listen to. I'll do that right away. But the notes are for me. I'm not responsible for you to figure out what we talked about. I'm not responsible for you to hold your hand to do anything about it.
Yeah.
But I will ask you the next time. And if you're never going to do anything about the things we talk about, I'm going to question, why am I coaching?
So that I think is really, really important, because we talk about accountability. And I think a lot of people expect the coach to hold them accountable. And they'll even say, I want you, Mr. or Mrs. Coach, to hold me accountable. And I've always felt like, and I know accountability is part of the coaching job, but I'm not going to hold you accountable. You're going to hold yourself accountable. I will support you in your accountability. And it sounds like you're.
See, that's a different type of engagement. I had a client that was studying for a professional exam, and he had a really hard time passing this exam. And he said, I've got all the material. I get so sidetracked with work, and then I go home and I don't study for the exam, but I need to study for the exam to get ahead in the business. And we talked about it, and I said, look, I want to email from you every day on what you did, how many hours you spent studying and what you did. And if I don't get it, I'm going to email you back and want to know what's going on. Do we need to talk? Okay.
Love that.
But that was a specific short-term
Right.
assignment to work with him through one key issue. Now, I've been coaching this client for 10 years. And so that was only one item in a large, portfolio of things we've talked about.
It sounds like you didn't say, if you had to email him, you didn't say, okay, I'm holding you accountable today. It was like, let's see what's going on with you, which is kind of
Is there
another
problem?
coaching moment that you took advantage.
It's a question. I can't tell anybody what to do. No, I have no authority. If I get too pushy, fire me.
Well, yeah, I would fire someone who got too pushy with me.
So it's. Did you have another question there, Lori?
Yeah.
And no questions from the audience, but I'm just curious, because I know we've done so many workshops with software vendors and, the coach bots and like a lot of the automation of the accountability part. How do you see, because you're at a certain level with the execs and the boards and everything, how do you see that affecting your engagements going forward?
I feel guilty about that question because I like to think of myself as being up to date tech wise, but in that area, I mean, you'd probably label me as a dinosaur. I've looked at most of that software. I don't know what I would do with it. It looks like it would just take me a lot of time to do things that really wouldn't help me very much.
Yeah.
The one that I've been looking at lately that I keep running into, and I'll just share this, is I find a lot of coaches have their calendars and you schedule your own time. You can look at their calendar and you can schedule whenever you want on it. And I keep looking at that. I keep looking at the software and I keep looking at a couple of people that I know that are using it. And I go, I really don't want all of you people deciding when I need to be on the phone and talk. I want to look and go, I want to screw around on Wednesday. Let's not, and that's, so I'm old fashioned. I have a company where I coach 17 people once a month. And so I send them out a big spreadsheet and say, here's the spots that are open. I give them about 30 open spots for your December coaching. Pick your spot and get it to me. First come, first serve.
Yeah.
And but by doing that, I can lump them all into days. I'm very disciplined about Monday. All of the clients that I coach once a week are Mondays. Mondays are my phone coaching day. I like to sit down and start and go to the end of the day. And that's my phone coaching day. I may do some phone coaching the rest of the week, but it's not the regular monthly scheduled stuff. And those are meetings and other things that I would do.
Yeah, see, I'm like that too. I have my days and I won't use a calendar or anything because I don't want anybody else messing with my calendar. But I can see where it's actually a convenience to other people. So, we can open it up, I think, for questions. I don't know that there's anything else specifically that we've prepared. So I think we should just all feel free to, ask Doug questions. And if you want to take people off mute and have them ask Doug questions, I think that would be fine too. So as you guys are all thinking about whether or not you have a question for Doug, I don't know, Michael, if you're comfortable with this, I kind of wanted to put you on the spot and just ask you, I know you do a lot of coaching in companies as well. And you've been very quiet here, kind of listening to Doug. What parts of what parts of kind of some of that he's shared, do you really, really resonate with, or any questions that you've asked?
Nothing is not an option, Michael.
No, it's actually what Doug is sharing is very similar to what I've landed on myself over the last, I've been at this for about 15 years. So over the last 5 or 6 years, it's very much the same space I landed, because I was doing executive coaching, but it was, charging, it was always, I've got this person once or twice a month, I'm charging this and that, it was hourly. And that took me a while to figure that out. I didn't know what to do with the retainer. I was kind of struggling with it. So that's very similar, the style, the method, all of that. I do tend to coach groups of executives in a company. So I'll do a lot of executive coaching. I do couple it with executive coaching team. So using other skills, I'll meet and do team coaching. I'll also do some training on different topics as it comes up. So it's a little combination of using the skills. And so what's exciting is I think what resonates with me, what's exciting about it is it works. And what it does is it takes you away from living and dying by the hour, right? So a lot of coaches struggle with, if someone cancels on them, which has happened to me all of a sudden, X amount less dollars this week, this month. By going to a monthly fee, that's become a very exciting thing, and it's created a lot of freedom. So I'm not coming out of a scarcity mindset. And I think a lot of us as coaches, especially starting out, there is that, oh my gosh, you know, I don't have enough clients, I don't have enough clients, I don't have enough clients. So by going to a set amount monthly, I've seen it really transform my business. And I'm hearing Doug talk about it, and it's really transformed. You know, it allows you to just be so much more present with your clients, because there's not that piece of you that's maybe not during your coaching call, but if, you know, as people are listening, that frantic piece of, oh, I don't have enough work this month, or someone just can't, I just had 3 cancellations. So it really has revolutionized sort of that piece. So that's exciting to me to hear other people doing the similar. And I think it's a key to unlock opportunity for us as coaches, because it allows for more impact, more influence, and we can cast a wider net that way.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting.
You should have been given this talk, Michael. You're a better speaker than me, too.
No, I have much to learn. I have much to learn.
You know, let me just share one example that just came up today. I was sitting there, had some time, and I'm looking at my calendar and I'm flipping through my coaching notes. I'm going, I've got nothing to do right now. What is this? Now, I left it that way because I was nervous about today and I didn't want anything else before tonight's meeting. And I'm looking back and I'm going, you know, those 2 owners, they were supposed to talk about this issue and they haven't done anything about it. I think I'll send them an email. So I send them an email and go, hey, last time we talked about this, and I don't know that anything's happened on it. And I think it would be really good. I'd be willing to meet with either one of you personally, or we can meet as a group. And here's 3 days that I've got some time available in the next 2 weeks. Now, that kind of thing, a retainer allows you to do that, because they're not having to think about what's that going to cost me. I'm not thinking about what it's going to cost me in hours. It's like, this is part of the service. I mean, there are some months with the one company that pays me a retainer, and there's 17 people that I coach in the company, and not all 17 make their coaching calls. I mean, they got other things to do. And, you know, you miss a couple of times and it may roll to next month. So, you know, you do need to set some boundary. I want to say one thing. You need to make sure that the client is walking away with the attitude that you are there for them all the time, that you are not juggling them with other clients. So I mention other clients only to share stories. I don't mention other clients in the sense that, gee, if you don't schedule something, I got 2 other clients that will take that spot. I mean, that's not going to make anybody your best friend. And the other thing is, I kind of have I read it in a book somewhere, I don't know where, but my rule is that I always say yes. When there's a client request, I never say no, but I can say yes with conditions. So when you want me to meet tomorrow on Friday, I will say, yes, I think that's a good idea that we meet, Sharon. And I would like to help you with that issue. And I think I can. Friday isn't a real good day for me. How do you feel about Monday or Tuesday?
Right.
You know? So I don't want to just say, no, can't do that. I'm off Friday. You know, can't do that. So it's always, and I think this is really good customer service, frankly. It's always yes, but with conditions. And frankly, I know what I was guilty of as executive. If I asked anybody on my staff to do something, first place in my mind, it was only going to take them a half hour, because everything should only take a half hour. You know, I hadn't done whatever I'm asking them to do in a number of years. So I'd forgotten how difficult it was. And next was, since I was asking for it, I wanted it immediately. Why would you think about next week? You know, so you have to kind of learn to temper all that. And it really, once you go back to the CEO and say, great, I want to do that, but how about next week? They go, I guess I could wait till next week. Yeah, I'd like to take tomorrow off too.
Right.
You know?
Right.
How are we doing on questions from the gallery?
I have a question
Okay,
when they're done.
well, let's see.
No
if they have
questions
it.
at the gallery. Go ahead, Lenore.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so I've had a couple of experiences where I've been coaching the employees, but the sponsor is the CEO or, HR, whatever. And during the coaching, somehow the coachee wants to leave their current job. And I always get like flustered. I don't know how to handle that type of situation because the coaching engagement wasn't set up. I mean, that's not what the agenda is for, right? It's to support them in whatever it is in the current business. So how do I always wonder about the ethical part of that as well, because the sponsor is someone else. And I don't know, have you run into that?
Absolutely.
You have run into
Absolutely.
that? Okay, what are
I have coached a number of employees right into other companies.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And they still contact me and thank me for it. And so does the owner that they left.
Oh.
Okay.
And the owner.
All right. So here's the deal. It is in your engagement letter. If it isn't in the letter, it ought to be in your discussion when you're doing your engagement. I tell my client, a new client, when I'm explaining what coaching is, I tell them, look, there's some rules here. I will coach this employee on the 3 things you said they need coaching on, but I will also coach them on anything else they want me to coach them on. You okay with that? What you mentioned is a priority, but I will coach them on anything they need coaching on because I'm coaching the individual. The better the individual is, the happier the individual is, the better employee you've got. It's a win-win for everybody. Okay. Number 2 is my conversations with them are confidential. You can only ask me, how's it going? I'll tell you, they haven't shown up the last 3 times. I think we ought to drop them, but I'm not going to share data with you.
Right.
Now, when I'm coaching 17 employees in a company, I will come back and tell you, I think we have an issue here, but I'm not relating anything an individual said or anything that could be tracked to them. And then to your point, Lenore, the other thing I tell them is you need to understand that I'm coaching the employee, and it has happened before that I've coached them right out of the job. And they go, why would I hire you to do that? And I go, because if they're going to leave anyhow, aren't you better off the sooner they figure it out that this isn't a good fit?
Yeah.
And if they're thinking of leaving and I'm coaching them, they may just as easily through the coaching decide that they're wrong and they shouldn't leave. Because I understand the company and I'm here and I'm supporting the company, but I'm supporting the individual too. So I don't feel there's any conflict. Now, if you have a problem, Mr. CEO, with that, then we aren't going to be able to work together because it has happened.
So you say all this verbally, is any
It's not in
of it?
writing.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't know how I'd put it in writing,
okay.
but
Okay, I like that.
but I'm not worried about legal contracts. My letter agreement is something I don't know where I got it, probably a conglomeration of a whole bunch of things people handed out at ICF meetings, but none of the people I have are going to sue me, but I do buy a lot of insurance through ICF's insurance company. I carry a lot of liability insurance just in case. All right. I think that'd be foolish not to. But at the same time, I mean, I think I don't have 100 clients. I mean, I'm on 3 boards of directors and I have 6 corporate clients. Now, in those 6 corporate clients, one company, I only coach the CEO unless he asks me to do something else, which he frequently does. And one company, I don't coach the employees again, unless there's some issue. But the other companies I coach any place from 17 people to 10 other people. I have one of those clients that I've been with for 18 years.
Wow.
And of the others, only one is less than 10 years. So, so to me, if you, the extra time that you put in that you're not billing, forget that lawyer mentality. in terms of the long run, is well worth it.
Mhm.
And in terms of satisfaction, I've got lots of really good close friends that I missed during the pandemic.
Hmm. Yeah, but
Yeah, there's so much I resonate with when I listen to you because, I feel the same way about, I have longer term clients because I like to work with people on personal growth, so a little different than you, but also that I've gotten to be really close friends with some of them. And we have good, clean boundaries in our relationships, but sometimes your clients end up being your best friends.
we have another.
Do we have
question.
another question?
We have a question, yes. Does Doug just carry professional liability insurance? Sorry, that was me.
Are we in the bonus round now?
You get so many points. You're like triple points now. So yeah.
Yes, I only carry liability insurance, but I also, through the same insurance company, have the ability to expand on the same policy for consulting in addition to coaching and for director board positions.
Oh.
And each one of the companies that I'm on the board of directors buys a director's liability and offers liability insurance for me, or I won't serve on the board.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And by the way, that I can't think of the name of the company, but it's on the ICF site, and it is a great buy. It is not a lot of money for some very good coverage.
Was it Westminster? Westminster?
Yeah, sounds familiar.
Yeah, that's what I have.
I would, if I can jump in for a second, I would also say that depending on the client, they'll often require that you have certain, like many of my clients require that I have a certain amount of insurance,
Mhm.
and I have to prove that. So it's if you get on it early before you're asked for, and you go, oh yeah, here, and boom, the certificate shows up. It's a level of it just helps to solidify the
Professionality.
professionalism for you as a coach as well.
Yeah.
So
Makes a
Gives
lot of
them
sense.
confidence.
Good point.
yeah, confidence that you're established.
Mhm.
Let's open it up for questions. If you want, you can take us off spotlight so we can see all of you.
Okay, I'm gonna take you off spotlight.
And then maybe let's put us in gallery mode. That way we can see all the participants.
I got it.
Oh, it's so
Oh.
nice to see you all. Yay.
Oh, no, there's only 2 people left.
So I'm just wondering, we're getting to the end now. Does anyone, if you want, you can just take yourself off mute and ask a question. We'd love to hear from you. Karen, right?
Karen's
I'll
like,
ask
wait.
a question. I mean, I have a couple. So Doug, first of all, thank you. It's, your wisdom is, it's so genuine and profound, and, just like you, genuine and profound. Thank you.
All us Dougs are like that, Karen.
I know, isn't it true? Leslie, thanks for being there. I'm really curious about what's the coach that we don't see in Doug that Leslie might be able to share that.
You know what? It's amazing how it will lend to the other areas of his life, not just professional, and I will ask him from time to time, don't be my husband, be my coach for a minute. And so that can take on a different, wonderful ability to help me through things at home. But it's helped him be a better parent, better grandparent, a friend to people around him, because he listens with a whole different, you know him, he's larger than life, and he loves to talk and he loves to be funny. But when he wants to really hear, he will listen with his coaching ears and can be a better listener and pay more attention and offer better friendship, better whatever it is that's needed at that point in time with the relationship. So I guess that's all I can think of right now, but I think it has been an asset to his entire life, just the way you all learn to listen to each other, wherever it is, not even just your client, so.
I love that.
That's
That's
great.
profound.
Yeah, thank you very much.
More than once in the middle of some, let's say, intense discussions, Leslie has asked that I put on my coaching hat. And also it has happened that she said, you know, why don't you talk to Cynthia about this on your next coaching call?
And Cynthia usually agrees with me.
I love that.
Good.
Unbeknownst to her.
I have another question if nobody else has one that I'd like to ask.
Yeah, go ahead, Karen.
Okay, so Doug, I'm just curious, what is your legal structure? Are you an LLC or a C Corp or a sole proprietor? What is your legal structure? And what do you think is going to be the wave of the future for coaches in terms of legal structure going forward?
My legal structure is about 5'9", 180 pounds and nothing. Okay. You know, I filed for the Coaching Perspective as a DBA, and I don't even know if it's still effective. It was a lot of years ago. And if it ever needed to be renewed, I probably should have checked on it. But I don't have any legal structure. Most of my board of directors, all of my board of directors positions pay their checks to the Coaching Perspective. All of my coaching clients issue their checks to me personally.
Oh.
But they go in the same basic bank account. They're included in the same tax filing. So there really is, you know, as a single coaching practitioner, I don't see any need for any other structure.
So you're a solopreneur.
Yeah.
Oh, sole proprietor then, okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious, because of some of the changes, especially in California and the laws around, you know, independent contractors. It hasn't impacted me yet. I do work in, you know, the Fortune 500 or Fortune 100 companies, and they're saying that they're not going to be hiring coaches who are without an LLC or corporation behind them. I haven't experienced it myself, but I'm hearing about it. So I wondered what your experience was.
Yeah, Karen, that's a good point, and I've heard the same thing, but I haven't run into it.
Yeah.
I thought you couldn't in California, that if you are operating as a sole proprietor, you are on the line personally, and you can't. That was my understanding, but maybe I'm wrong. You can't hide under.
You can be an
corporate.
LLC.
Well, it's two different things I think there could be two different things we're talking about there, though. Is it Sharon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's two different things, though. One is about your legal obligation as, you know, what are you on the line for, which that's where you use insurance as a potential way to shore that up. And the other one is more what the company is willing, what your clients are willing to do. We're not culpable if somebody wants to hire us to do something. That's on the corporation because the state of California potentially could say you're an employee, and that's a law that's all the stuff around Uber, and it wasn't Uber originally, it was but it was the Uber drivers that became the predominant thing. Anyway, I'm just wondering about it. I'm hearing other coaches talk about it, and I am aware that some coaches have not, you know, they are going to get their C Corps or their LLCs or some other corporate structure. They're not remaining as sole proprietors.
Well, I'm sorry you brought it up, Karen, because you're usually on the cutting edge of what's going to happen. And so we probably should start looking at that, but thank you.
And Karen, it's there might be also the option for coaches, you know, as coaches, that an S Corp might be a better option than a C Corp.
Yeah, and part of it goes to your whole structure. We've got Victoria online here, who's like one of the preeminent people in wealth management and financial planning and that sort of thing. So I think it's also, what's your life about? So you have to start with what's your own personal vision, I think, and then take it from there about how you want your business to run. So I think it's a both and, Michael, to be honest. It's a good point, and I think it's a both and. I think we have to look at all of the angles.
Yeah.
I'm
Thank
getting
you.
a nod from Victoria.
I was just gonna say, does Victoria want to add?
Oh, yes. Go Victoria.
I think you're right on, Karen. That's exactly the way I would say it's, what do you want to accomplish with it? How much do you anticipate making? How do you, look at it in terms of structure for your particular tax situation? And so you're really better off talking with your own tax accountant to determine whether it makes sense to hold it as a sole proprietorship or an LLC.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. I think it's very personal. I just think what I notice is a lot of people don't take the effort or make the effort to go find out what might be most useful for them. And I think that Doug, you've had this very impactful and successful career, and you have longstanding relationships, and all by referral. I mean, there's a lot of risk mitigation that's already happening as a result of what you've chosen. And it's certainly what I've chosen too. At the same time, I think when we have an opportunity in a forum like this, and I don't know some of the people on this call, and they don't know me, and it's like, how can we help each other with what we might be thinking about or curious about or wanting to know for the future? So you've planted some really good seeds too. So I appreciate that. Going forward seeds, I should say. That's why they're getting planted.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Karen. I hear there's another question in chat, and then, just to know, this will probably be like one of our last ones because we're getting close to the end.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask Diane Fulton to come off mute and ask her question, because I'm getting brave in the question answer phase of my first time of doing this.
Yay, Lori!
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Doug. It's Diane here. I wanted to ask you, when you coach, do you have an area of specialty, or do you coach very eclectic, or how would you define or describe your sort of breadth or depth of how you approach your clients?
I kind of hate that question. The smart aleck answer is I only coach human beings. I think of myself as a business coach. So people bring me in to basically deal with their business problems. That's what they think they need help in. Having said that, I don't know of very many of my clients, if any, that we haven't also dealt with many of their personal and life problems too. I mean,
Okay.
You just can't separate it once you develop the trust in somebody and you open up and you're willing to share and be transparent. I think you can go anywhere. As far as business, I don't focus in any one particular area or industry. Although, again, I think it's based on your background, because I had a residential building company for almost 20 years. I tend to attract a lot of people in the construction building industry just because I talk their language, and they don't understand coaching. They think that you need to know their business to coach them. We know you don't, but when they're first hiring you, they're using the wrong criteria to sift through who to pick as a coach.
Yeah.
But as long as they select me, I'm not going to tell them that.
I like that.
Thank
I
you.
like that. If there aren't any, are there any other questions before we move to the next phase? So our next phase is gems, and usually at the end, after we've talked to somebody, we kind of go around and we each share what's most valuable. I'm just going to have us give our gems to Doug first, and then we will move it over to you guys, and I'll pass it over to you, Greta, and you can have everybody over there give a gem. I guess I'll start while everybody's thinking, which I never thought about. I haven't thought yet. So, but I think, I always love having you. So there's all of that. But if I pick out something kind of just mentally that was really intriguing to me today, it was that it's just the permission to, when you share in depth the way you think about your clients, I'm able to resonate with it. It's kind of like validation. It's like, oh yes, because I want to have really long-term clients too. And yes, I've experienced this with my clients too. And yes, oh, and since Doug shares it, it makes it okay, right? It's not like I'm some weird coach because I think about this. It's like, okay, if Doug shares it. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing so honestly some of the situations that you faced, because for me, I think that's the true gem, is when we can share with each other kind of more of what's going on underneath it all. I don't think some of us get that as perspective, and it's really valuable. So thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to share yours?
Yeah. So I think my gem goes back to even the very first time I met you. I don't know, like, if you guys, there's something about Doug that is just very, you have a gravitational pull. And I feel like my gem is every time I'm around you, I light up more, if that makes sense. I feel more empowered. I feel that I can, like you said, that permission piece, like I can too. And, nothing specific. There's lots of little specifics. Again, I took a bunch of notes, but I like being around you. That's my big gem. So
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
My coach Cynthia that's what she gives me. I never end a session that I don't feel better than when I started.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think the gem for me is how you really provide value to your clients in so many different ways, in different areas, business life, personal life, but even from the first time you meet them, and the whole idea of the retainer and providing extra services kind of at the beginning and crediting them for that, because you're really just providing so much value to them and meeting them where they are and where they really need that value.
Thank you.
It's a good reminder.
So I want to say Sharon stole my answer, but I'm not going to do that. No, it is very similar. I think it's this, as you were speaking about the clients and your approach, it's almost like this gentle yet intense desire to serve them. And that's what creates that relationship that lasts so long. So.
Thank you. You got it.
Leslie, did you have a gem tonight?
I have to agree with you guys as you're talking about being genuine. And I think if we can be genuine with our clients, with each other, then that's what we receive. And that's how we bridge that and have those long-term relationships. And so if we can be genuine, then we can have that, have it reciprocated with us.
Love that.
Yeah.
Pass it to you guys.
Thanks. Yeah. So Diane just wrote something in chat. Diane, do you want to come off mute and tell everybody?
Hi, yes, thank you. This is Diane. So two things stood out when I think about longevity from the discussion and from what you've brought to us, Doug. And so thank you so much for that. One was the monthly retainer model. Like that's not something that that I have ever worked with. And the other was to not ignore all the skills you have, not just your coaching skills and ability but what other things you might have that you can bring, to your clients. And so that was really food for thought for me. So thank you so much for that.
Thanks,
Thank you, Diane. And let me just comment that don't get scared about the monthly retainer. I mean, you asked me what the retainer was. I gave you what I'm charging most of my good sized clients, but I've got clients that are paying a lot less, and I love working with them, and it's what they can afford.
Okay.
Thank you. How about you, Bonnie? We haven't heard from you. What about your gem for tonight?
Come off on mute there. Well, I guess I have a lot, but I liked the genuineness of just being honest and open and not being afraid. Like with the company, I really like that question about what if the person wants to leave the company And the way he answered that question was just, oh yeah, okay, it's not near as hard as you think. Just be honest. Be honest and kind and thoughtful. That's the message I got. I love that. I think it
Thank
has
you.
Yeah, I love the way you said that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Victoria, how about you?
Well, I got several gems, but one, the liability insurance, and I want to look into that. But two, perhaps more important, is the permission to set boundaries to protect yourself from doing work that you don't really want to do. And all of my clients are pro bono because I work with nonprofits. So I coach pro bono for clients. And what I find is that I'm offering to, oh, you should meet so-and-so, or have you looked at this? And let me introduce you to so-and-so. And I'm creating a full-time job for myself beyond the coaching hours. So I was the one who asked you about prep time and, and notes following up, because coming from the financial world and the wealth management world, we took copious notes on everything. And I mean, we were very obsessive compulsive about taking notes and capturing them and sending them on. But if I coach for an hour for free, and then I'm spending 2 hours on prep, I don't, there's something wrong with this picture. So thank you for giving me permission to set boundaries.
Way to go.
Nice.
Thank you. And just don't want to go too much over time. Very quickly, Karen, and then Lori, how about a quick gem?
So I just appreciate being here. This is such a nice, intimate community. So the gem is this intimacy was really created by everybody here, I felt. And I want to build on what Nanor said about Doug making us feel empowered. And I agree with that. That's how I feel. And Doug, it's always the humility. There's just this humility that you exude. And I've known you for a long time too. And you have this huge toolkit and this huge experience. And yet what comes through is your humility. And that's the gem that I want to remind myself to have more of. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to add on what she's saying, like, oh, wow, like I haven't got to listen to you, Doug, and I sense that what Nenora was saying, and it's just been a true honor to hear you speak. And I just wanted to say a sincere thank you, and to you for like leading the coaching industry the way that you have. And also I want to acknowledge Leslie, because there's no paradigm person without a paradigm person supporting them either. So like, thank you, Leslie, for your love and support. I mean, I think it's the partnership of the two of you that makes that, or in my world, that's
Thank you.
what makes it work,
That's an understatement, and thank you for pointing it out. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, and if I could just wrap up, so many people have mentioned my own gem. I don't want to repeat them, but it's just a very special meeting tonight. I want to thank everyone on the board, the committees, and mostly you, the participants, for being here with our trial on this hybrid event. It seemed to have worked well, and we're hoping that we can bring more to you in the coming year. Having said that, I'm going to wrap up with a quick reminder of the CCEUs, the 1.5 CCEUs. Yes, Doug?
Can I share a gem?
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
I would just like to thank the board in particular and all of you who attended tonight, because when Nahid asked me to speak way early in the year, I said, I will, but only if I can talk to a real live audience. I said, I like talking to people. I like interaction. I don't want to just do a monologue, although I tend to do it too much, but and so of course that didn't really happen exactly, but this was wonderful. It is the best non-real meeting I've ever been in. So.
Thank you. And we hope that you'll join us for our upcoming holiday parties. It's going to be very special this year. On December 8th, we have an in-person holiday party for members at the Balboa Yacht Club on December 8th from 5 to 9 p.m. Look on our events page and grab a ticket because we've limited seating to 30 people, and your chapter and your dues are offsetting the cost of this wonderful event. Also on December 9th, we're having another holiday party for everyone. It's going to be a virtual party. So if you can't make it to December 8th, join us on December 9th. And we're going to be doing some fun and games. We're going to be going over the year, and we're going to be introducing the 2022 board members. So thanks everyone for being here. We look forward to seeing you at the next holiday parties, hopefully, and in future events. So thank you.
Thank you, guys. Mwah. Bye.